Now, as much as I enjoy Bach, I like Tenacious D's take on it just a little bit better. Greetings, Wanderers. We're gonna jump right into Tainted Grail, which I haven't played in like, oh shit, I want to say 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Approximately. Unfortunately, time has not been kind to me, or rather my free time has been overtaken by the Trails games. As I started playing Trails into, I beat Cold Steel 4, and now I started Trails into Reverie. And of course, JRPGs are very large time sinks. Yeah, I'm gonna save it in front of this guy. Now, what I do remember is this asshole, Abigor, beating my ass so many times. So,
still alive.
I really want to kill him. Oh, he's got fucking Ormeal on, whatever it's called. Oh, I got a big boy. Woo! Tainted Grail, that's right. And welcome, Novo Pixel. Oh. You're just in time to watch me get my face decked in. Probably about a good dozen times before I kill him. This guy is really strong.
I know that.
Just in time to see me get. Oh, yeah. This guy hurts. He like one-shots me. Here we go. Whittle him down. Oh, maybe not. Shit. I need a lot more potions equipped for this guy. Quick slots. Here we go. Fireball. Interesting. There we go. Ah, you spiky bastard! Hey, what am I doing? I got an even bigger weapon. Ooh. Oh, that actually applies the effect. I didn't realize that. Ooh. Oh! Could have been real bad. With the stagger. Pro gamer moves. Oh, he's got feints too. Oh! Oh! He hit me with the string. The knockback into the range attack. This sucks. Death counter 2. Wait, I got 4 lives. So 2 more. You know, I'm not even gonna talk to him this time. I'm just gonna fucking. He didn't like that. Can't hit him when he's got his shield up. Food? Here we go, here we go. Halfway down. Could have been bad. Just a little bit. Oh. Let's not get overzealous. more and then I can Arthur time. He's got heals? No. No. No, you bastard. Only I can heal in the fight. God, this guy is so annoying. Okay. Alright. I see how it is. Oh. A little bit more. Now I'm healing. Oh! What does Ninja say? Pistol kill? There we go. Sword kill. Oh, that was really close. Oh shit! Just a little bit more. Oh! And he's down for the count. Oh, I want everything. Hell yeah. GG. No re. What did he drop? Oh, this is cool. Dual Knight helmet. Increase max stamina with 5. Increase. Oh. Okay, I need more endurance though. Honorary blade. 100% more damage. Enemies below 25% max stamina. Jeez, okay. Unfortunately, it's one hand. Oh, but I got a cape. Dual Knight cape. I can't make use of it, but I'm going to wear it anyway. Just because it looks cool. Dual Knight gloves. So I need endurance. 6 endurance, 6 endurance. 6 endurance. 6 endurance. 6 endurance? 6 endurance, okay. Oh, he was worth a lot of XP too. Good. Good, good, good. Where is my... There it is. Flame resonance. Okay. Right. Alrighty. Well, I'm just glad that I killed him. He's killed me so many times. And now, he's dead. Oh shit, and it's nighttime. His equipment is really heavy. Okay, I'm gonna have to run back to the stash. Now, the last time I played this, I actually had this graphics issue, and it appears I still have a graphics issue. Unless that red bar means I'm over encumbered. Last time I would get a red pillar appear out of my stomach. But it looks like it's gone. I know they've updated this game a few times since the last time I played. Oh, yeah, I can't even dodge. I think that cape is fucking me. Unequip. Oh yeah, it's the cape. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I can dump. I think I already dumped all my crafting stuff, but I handle this. And I can sell. Of course, there's no fucking vendors out right now. That's fine. All right. I'll go and rest and see what I have to do next. my Arthur time back. No food. Okay. Quests. Now, a viewer told me that I can cheese Excalibur with a shit ton of healing potions, which is good to know. Unfortunately, I don't have the healing potions to do that, so I need to go to... Where's back to keep me with Rosen? Could check on them. Watchtower. Abandoned dungeon beneath the Watchtower. Okay. Speak with Berg. And the ancient ritual site. Okay. Ruin Broch. Broch. Abandoned stronghold. That's already, we went there. Suited settlement also already went there. Hunt for Weird Deer is another one I could try to do. I'm not entirely sure if I can though. So let me rest until daytime. I'm not even, what, 13 minutes in? My game's already bugged, I think. My danger sense underneath my compass up there is permanently on. All right. Let's see what I can sell. Can use a branding iron as a weapon. What the fuck? That's fucked up. Sell. Longsword. Wolfang. Herring dagger. Not really looking to dual wield, so. Claymore. Keep the shovel. I didn't even look at his shield. Dual shield. Unblocked deals 20% of your armor's damage to attacking enemies. 75% on a successful parry. That would actually be really strong, especially since I'm heavy armor. But I do like my two hands. Big damage. Big damage. Not looking to sneak. Like this. Assassin, sneak. Assassin, sneak. Increase dash speed by 30%. I wonder what dash speed does. Assassin, I can sell. Increase attack speed, increase stamina. Increase health. Not getting a whole lot of money for this. I hope I'm not fucking myself over. You can like disenchant shit.
Please, stage open.
I don't think this guy has any more.
You're a born killer, aren't you?
Any
Instead
more,
of just taking out bandit scum, how about hunting something bigger?
Bigger?
There's an ogre. A really nasty
An
son of a
ogre?
bitch,
Oh,
holed up
no.
in a nearby brook. I've
Brook.
heard that one swing of his hammer can turn a bear into a bloodbath. As you can imagine, the keepers aren't too keen on dealing with him, even though the ogre roams just off the main road to the north. When Galahad arrives, he certainly won't be pleased. If by some miracle you manage
Galahad.
to kill it, you'll earn Camelot's gratitude and a hefty reward. Bring me the ogre's shiny eye as proof of the kill. The brook is right off the King's Road. Here, I'll mark it on your map.
Okay, so
Do you keep bandits' fingers as trophies? I would. Go chop off some
sorry,
heads.
this guy's really weird. I forgot. Okay, so There's an ogre I can hunt. Aha. Conveniently, next to the fast travel point. There we are. The marker always fucks me up. I keep putting a marker down and I can't click on shit. Alright. Okay. Let's save, shall we? Oh, he's big. Alright, Shrek. Your time has come. He does have a shiny eye. What the fuck? Oh, oh, oh. Oh, he's actually kind of squishy. What the fuck are you doing? Ooh. Throwing rocks? Come here. Oh, this guy's a joke. Fat, slow, and ugly. But you're worth a pretty penny. Oh, I can't wield his weapon. I wish I could. I want that big hammer. I will job change to a hammerman broadaxe. Dig. It's got treasure. I wonder why. Hammer of stupefaction. Oh shit. 75 to 81. Hitting a target has 20% chance to stun it. It's not bad. He's got the strength to wield it. The beak. The big hammer. Blueberries. Lots of dead guys. Roses. Plenty of food to cook too. Let's check these towers. What's there? Points. Perilous orb. Increase crit chance by 3%. Ooh, now we're talking. I would love to do crits with my two-handers. Just a Claymore Severe. Is there an easy way up or is this a jumping puzzle? A little bit of platforming. Oh boy. Oh. There's no source jumping. Damn. There we go. Easy. Oh, I thought there was a chest up here. Damn it. Oops. Snake. There's just a dead guy down here. Alright. How do I get down safely? Oh, right here. Barrel charm. What is that? Flame torch. Looks like a spell. Barrel charm. Increased physical damage 3%. Okay. That's just a flat damage up. Okay, I don't think I want to... Well, I could just put him in willy-nilly, so... I will... upgrade my sword. Where is my sword? Giant sword. I may have to... Oh, there it is. Okay. Upgrade. So... +1. What's the damage buff? 42, 45, 40. I guess up 3 more damage per upgrade for now. It is a good sword, so I mind upgrading it some. Attach relic. Build up frenzy. Like poison. Like burn. Barrel charm. Alright. And those I can always remove whenever I feel like it. Increase attack speed 25%, your health below 25%. Increase max stamina by 10. Increase max stamina by 5. Decrease stamina cost by 10%. What about this cape? Increase stamina regen by 25. Increase crit chance by... Ooh, crit chance. I can't really wear this yet, but I'm going to upgrade it for now. This could be good. Alright. And if it sucks, I'll just remove it. Bloodstone. Okay, there's one more piece of this wall that I didn't search. Damn. There we go. Fire arrows. Useless. Okay, the ogre is slain. Is there anything cool around here, though? Before I go back to town and in his head. I don't think I've been up here. I guess. This guy should be a joke, yeah. I see something on my... Oh, it's just... Oops. He tried to act tough. What is this? Ooh. Let's save. I think quick save, right? Oh yeah, okay. Lair of the Beast. Who are you? Carrot. Oh, it's that fucking...
So you did find something in the island asylum, and you brought it back to the mainland. You could have told me, and yet you decided to lie.
Trust has to be earned. Why should I tell you anything? Trust does it. Well, he did save me, but why should I tell him about this shit?
Have you already forgotten how you were rotting in a cell that reeked of blood, waiting for the priests to turn you inside out?
Mm-hmm.
And have you also forgotten who it was exactly who got you out of that cell? If it weren't for me, you'd be nothing but a brain in a jar by now. But I don't blame you. There are no hard feelings on my end. Our king always was a master at manipulation, and he did heal you of the Red Death.
How did you figure out Arthur's with me?
You don't remember? I didn't have to figure anything out. He saved you when the monster attacked us at sea.
Yeah, my hands are cold.
Arthur, can you hear me, you parasite? I am coming for you.
He doesn't remember you. What are you doing here? How did you survive the storm? What are you doing here?
Same thing I always do. Cleaning up the mess our king's actions and decisions left behind in this world. There was a beast down there that needed to be put down. Hideous thing.
How did you survive the
I
storm?
have my ways. I don't think I have to answer if you didn't grant me the courtesy.
I feel like this guy would just kill me if I told him the truth. He doesn't remember you.
Oh, I will make him remember.
Ooh, tough guy. So you're on your way to steal Excalibur now.
No, that's your job. You can decide to help me, you can decide to help him. At this point, it doesn't even matter, since we're both after the same thing. I'm sure he wants to regain his power, and I want to destroy every single piece of his soul. Either way, you'll be helping us both. Now, it was nice talking to you, but I can't stay here all day. I'll be keeping a close watch over your
So he wants me
journey.
to succeed so he can kill me. Aren't you gonna help me out with getting Excalibur?
No. You know what to do. You will be
Excalibur.
doing it, and I have other matters to take care of. But if you want my help, all right? Once again, I can prove I'm not your enemy. You can ask me one question, and I'll answer truthfully. Or I can give you an artifact I found in this cave.
An
which is
artifact.
okay with your continued survival.
Knowledge is power. But I'm greedy.
Smart choice, although not the one I was expecting. Here, I hope you'll find it useful.
Give me the artifact. I thought you were going to fight me.
No, I don't have an issue with you. And now that I saw the extent of his power, even in his weakened state, I realize it would be pointless to try to free you of him.
Oh, so he does want to kill
I'll
me.
need something stronger than the blade I carry with me.
Farewell then.
We'll meet again.
Caradoc. Caradoc. Got myself a rival. Many are figure. Oh, it's just a figurine. I mean, I'm not gonna say no to it, but maybe I should have went with the question being answered. He said he looted this place, but did he? Did he loot all of it? I'll be the judge. Oh, holy shit, there's just dead guys all over the place. Maybe he really did loot this place. Ah, he missed the chest. Pyroclastic 4. Charged by dealing fire damage, huh? What else? Oh my. What the hell is that? Whispers. Well, Arthur wants to talk. Did Sephiroth do this? I mean, Caradoc? This thing is horrifying. What is that? Looks so cool. There we go. It's got a very long neck. Damn. Was this a fucking questing beast? What's this? Quest. It is the questing beast. He killed the questing beast. What the fuck? I took its egg. Once carried for long enough, it can be what? It can be hatched by resting near a bonfire. Steps to hatch for. Oh. Well, let's just count our steps. Start the Fitbit. I didn't see anything else in its nest. Oh, it's got me more encumbered. I'll drop this. And was that? Drop the X's. That great sword is actually... It actually does more damage than my giant sword, but... My giant sword gives me a shit ton of stamina when I kill stuff, so... Okay, there's nothing else. We're questing based. The origin of this thing, by the way, in Arthurian myth is pretty horrifying and dark. So dark that I shan't speak of it. Not in all of its very explicit detail. All right. I have apparently just completed the quest for the weird deer. Despite the fact that I have not slain any weird deer. But who am I to... Oh, I see. Oh my... He went straight to the ground like a fucking whack-a-mole. Oh, that was good. That felt good. Shrine of a Forgotten God. Okay, this just leads back to the main area, looks like, so. Run back. Run back and teleport. The hand in this head. Wonder if he's got any more monsters to slay. Killian. Cillian? Killian. I think his name is Killian. Killian, you weird
Please,
bastard.
State your business.
I have your ogre head.
I can't believe you actually did it. A blade buried in that giant body. I can only imagine what a sight that was.
A beautiful
Yeah,
sight.
take your reward. And please accept Camelot's official gratitude. You've truly done a great service for the capital.
Much money you give me, man. Much money.
Do you keep bandits?
That's next piece. 600 coins. All right. Let's see. I have a decent amount of money now. Check my quests. Didn't have anything else, did he? I should have checked. Any more monsters to
Please,
slay?
state your business. A fight to the death.
Okay, I think that's it.
Do you keep bandits?
Okay. Unforgettable. I still don't know where her husband is. We're just silent. I thought I gave this letter to a red priest already. That isn't Sage. That's Druid's Circle. I don't think I've done that one yet. I remember killing Bald Kate. Yeah. Dungeons beneath the watchtowers. Maybe I should find Gobon. Drinking buddies. That's the stuff in the village. Soul. Burgess. We'll see. Prove myself or I can talk to the captain. Okay. Then let's see if I am considered proven to Fergus. Okay, I thought I gave the letter to this guy.
I thought about what you showed me.
Thank you for trusting me.
Why the sudden change? Thought you didn't believe me.
I heard rumors a long time ago, back when I was still an acolyte, about the sealed, pitch-black dungeons from which you could hear howling, rattling of chains, and other mysterious noises every night. The mere description of them could frighten a young man. Back then, I thought it was nothing but a tale to scare new adepts into obedience. But several years ago, a traveler came here. He was looking for information about his pregnant wife.
Oh,
She was supposed to go to the island asylum to treat the early symptoms of the Red Death, and we were already quite adept at suppressing those. No wonder her husband was hoping for her safe return. But if she never came back and vanished without a trace, well, it made me wonder. And now this letter. I've decided I can't keep turning a blind eye to what's been happening. It's against the word.
dang. Katrin and her son died in the dungeons. I saw the remains. Yeah.
That's very bad.
Very bad. That's the
More
way of putting
evidence
it.
that both you and the letter are telling the truth. Her husband is probably around 50 years old now. He came from Quanacht. So if you ever meet him, please pass this information on to him. And assure him that old Regan from the Horns of the South offers any support he may need.
Did you come to any conclusions?
Ah, yes. I wrote to the prior to send another acolyte in my place. I told them I wanted to end my service and retire. But
You get
well,
retired?
in truth, I'll
from the
go to
prior?
the prior with the letter you gave me. It's time to honor the memory of Father Leon and bring this matter to an end. To do justice to all those suffering in torment in the island asylum. In the meantime,
Good
I
man.
am still at your
Good man.
service, my child.
I don't think
What
I
can
don't
I
see
do
this
for you
ending well from
today?
the.
Certainly.
He's got a shop.
Kai's blessed.
Mother's Embrace. Slowly heals you over time. Launch healing increases healing up to 200% every 4 seconds. Magic shields. Monster blood. Monster brains. Nah.
Make
Okay, so that's the quest ended. And a new quest. Updated. Katrin's husband lives in Quanacht. I've heard them pronounce it Quanacht, and I've also heard Kunacht.
stay out of.
I think we're just freestyling what pronunciations for some of these words are.
I
Jurgis.
just heard that some old man named Morris showed up at the keep, dragging the head of Bald Kate just so he could be with his wife in the Horns. Can you imagine? I still can't tell whether it's bravery or he's just out of his mind. Probably a bit of both. It's you. Mahone is getting better. I don't know what you've done, but your results are remarkable, at least for us. Unfortunately, Cole isn't improving, but I'll allow the
Yeah,
refugees
Cole is
to
a bit of a
stay.
lost cause. What about Cole?
His fate is in their hands. They'll do what they want with him. I'm not going to be responsible for his life. It's not our concern.
You don't know what caused all this.
No. I only care that the situation is resolved. One less thing to worry about.
No. Okay, yeah, I have tags. That gives me money. Nice, 700. Okay. The tunnels.
Captain Hagen. Well, he was a man driven by pride and a certain disregard for caution. He sent men to explore those old tunnels beneath the keep. Somehow, he got it into his head that there was something valuable down in those tunnels.
Oh, really?
Treasures, relics,
Yes,
who
yes.
knows what else. But the truth is, we know what was there. In the Age of Legends, it was just a hospital. There was some kind of outbreak or plague, and the place was sealed off. Nothing left to find, or so the records say.
Isn't it only right to bury the keepers?
Yes, it weighs on me more than I'd care to admit. If I could, I'd see them laid to rest. but no captains ever bothered. It seems they thought it was a fool's errand. Maybe not worth the risk.
But I could go down there.
If you're mad enough to
I
try,
could claim the treasure.
by all means, go ahead. Just don't expect any keeper to follow you. I really don't have men to spare. But maybe it's time to make it right. So, thank you, I suppose.
Treasure. Okay. Where's it going to be key to dungeons? Time to see what's lurking down there. Yes. We'll talk to the captain later. I want to see what's down there. Did I level? No, I'm close to leveling though. Okay.
Hope nothing bad happens today.
This way? Or... Did you see that? Oh yeah, I thought the pillar came back. The red pillar. The cursed pillar. All right. Where the fuck? Outside? Oh. The gate's locked, so save and jump. Here we go. Oh, I thought that was a treasure chest. Alright. Alrighty. Crypt. A dungeon awaits. If I level up near the entrance, though, I will leave to give myself some stats. Oh, and there you go. So I'm going to leave to give myself some stats. All right. There we go. Oh, that's right. Arthur wanted to talk. Let's hear what he has to say after I... Endurance. There we go. Okay. Actually, I should put some points into my armor. Here we are. Just so I can wear that cape. Alright, Arthur. What do you think? That creature Caradoc slew. It didn't look natural. What was it?
That one, I remember. It was a weird beast, born from the nightmare of
Pelennor.
One of my knights. His family spoke of a legend of the questing beast, a relentless monster that hunted his ancestors without end. He made it his life's mission to slay it, and yet, no such creature existed in the homelands. But when we came here, it appeared before him. Poor Pelennor died the moment he saw it, overcome by terror. It was Palamedes who struck it down. This weird beast looked the same. I can only assume it is a spawn of Pellennor's demise.
Or Pelennor. His life's mission is to slay the questing beast, and then he's done in. Done in by the exact same monster. He should have packed more cabbage rolls. Oh shit, I didn't see if I can equip the armor. Oh hell yeah. Now I look cool. I mean, I already look cool. Now I look cooler. So I think this armor is actually slightly better with the max stamina boost to look cool. Oh, hell yeah. That's the main thing. Does it look cool? Dual Knight helmet. Increase stamina, decrease okay, so that's definitely that buff. Dual Knight gloves. Crits restore oh, fuck yeah. 20% melee damage. Jeez. Increase crit by 25%. Your stamina is below a 20%. Increase. It's not bad. Actually, that's actually really good because if I'm just swinging to kill, I will go under my 25% stamina. Okay, I see. And with all these max stamina boosts, it makes my 25% even bigger. Increased movement speed. So kind of like a emergency buffs when I'm low health. Okay. Let's see what's in this crypt. It's supposed to be the chicken. He did say it was a hospital, right? Oats. I should empty my crafting stuff into my stash. But that's fine. Fried fish. Crabs. Ore is always good. Crucian carp. Butter. Oh, I need that whiskey. Potions. Cheese, deer pelts. Potatoes. Apples. Wine, yes. Poison arrows. Lots of alcohol, which is good. I can make these. Sage and spirits, okay. We'll make those. Oh. Not too interested in the bombs. They are cool though. Oof. 4? I don't know what that is. Whiskey, venison, blueberries. I'm surprised all this food is down here. Must be the weirdness. Half expecting to find a note or a journal, but that's fine. All right. Oh, there's enemies. I sense them. Swordman senses are tingling. Oh, shh! Oh! The jump scare. Yeah. Take that. Oh shit, another. Okay, these guys are pretty weak, so. Simple zombies. They're disposed of simply. Oh, he's actually... I didn't even see him there. Monster blood. Plot coins. Great health potion. Leather is always good. Need that. Oh, hello. The crit. I made something angry. There he is. get here eventually. Fallen Keeper. Boom. Okay, let's sweep the second floor first. Before I go down. Rocks. Woods. I can rest in here? That doesn't seem like a very healthy idea. Oh, he actually made it over there. I like how he turned like, what the fuck, man? I went all the way over here. You moved on me. There you are. Too slow. Oh, he's got a tank. Is there another? Yeah, there is. Ah, that's right. That was part of the quest. Okay. Okay, so that's the second. Oh, I swinging a whip. There we go. It's like, oh shit, 4 stories? Okay. I'll sweep then. Nothing. Nothing. I think I might be a little overpowered for this dungeon. And that's fine. Nothing. Okay. Other side. Oh, I thought that was a zombie. Oops. You didn't see that. Go back to sleep. Ah, chest. +2 short bow. I'm only holding on to a ranged weapon. Just in case I need it. Oh. I think there's something over there. Oh, I guess he's underneath me. Okay. Food. Food. Crafting mats. Always good. Okay. There's stairs? Yeah, there is. Okay. Downstairs. Next sweep. What the fuck? Weird slime? Oh, the poor slime. Ew. Protecting a chest. Origin potion. Gold torque. How is that theft? Who am I thieving from? Bullshit. Everybody down here is fucking dead, man. Moonshine. Fuck yeah. Peppermint, sage, honey. Milk, flour, salt. Health pot. Okay, other side. At least these pelts will come in handy. Oh, I'm over encumbered. Lurking, forgot your earbuds. No worries, Doom Guide. This is a lurk friendly stream. Also good to see you. I need to drop something. Yeah, I really should have fucking emptied my bag before I came down here. Here, I'll drop this. Hello. Mr. Blood. Shitins. Very nice. A keeper, yes. Another one. Okay. So that's 3 out of 5. Is this the last floor? Looks like it. Keeper? Yes. And a slime. Oh, that hurt. Oh, bastard. Slime? I see the enemy ping. Okay. Nothing in here. So I'm missing one. Unless I didn't loot him. No, I looted him. Okay. Line, yes. Cabbage rolls. Eat cabbages. Beef. Ooh. Keeper? No, just a regular undead. Oh shit, I didn't even see that. Oh shit. Oh. You little. There we go. Watch out for those things. Slimes can be quite dangerous. With Sword of Flame. Let's see how they like this. I wish the fire sword or fire resin would Hey, you little bastard. I wish it would give me some light. Oof. This guy's headed rough. Excuse me, fella. The fuck is that? Croak Ma? There we go. The fuck is that thing? Croak Ma's are a monstrous result of parasitic infestation and lose of the weirdness. It begins as a simple toad, becomes something far deadlier once a blood-sucking crustacean latches onto its tongue. Look at him! Look at his little face! Eventually replacing it entirely. The infection leaves the host aggressive and insatiable, hunting far beyond its usual prey. Exposure to weird tainted waters, alchemical waste, 6 stars for transformation. The infected toads and swell to grotesque sizes, becoming apex predators of the swamps. With razor sharp reflexes and insatiable hunger, Krokmon will devour anything foolish enough to stray too close. That does not look like a crustacean. Look at him. Look how small he is. Weird meat. Krokmon. These things actually exist, right? Not the Krokmon, but the I think it's an ocean parasite that it eats the tongue of the fish and then basically becomes its new tongue and leeches off whatever it eats. It's kind of fucked if you ask me. Okay, is there anything I can drop? I can drop this. It's not worth anything. Chest. Fuck. Spinebreaker. Ancient Knight Breastplate. Spinebreaker. Ignores enemy blocks, huh? Ow. Hold on a second. Let me slot my weapons real fast. I have 1 sword and 3 hammers. There we go. Well, I tell you what, that Spinebreaker would have been helpful against Abacor. Or Abacor, or whatever his name is. Ancient Knight Breastplate. Increase max down by 10. What does it look like? It's not bad looking, but actually it fits well with this helmet. This is way cooler though. Oh, this helmet fits Bald Kate's number 2. Now I did read on their Discord that they were looking at adding Ring of Protection. Increased armor by 1. They're looking at adding transmog to this game, which would be really cool. Basically swapping the look of a piece of armor with something else. I missed a keeper. Okay. Yeah, these are useless. Basically, my knight set sucked. But that's fine. I have to check on my egg too. Okay. This is gonna be a little annoying. Do I have a torch? I'm pretty sure oh, that's deep. I'm pretty sure I killed 5 keepers. Which means I just forgot to loot one. I guess these things, these fucking slimes, man. So that's 2. It's 2 keepers looted, so 3 more. Retracing my steps. No. What's an undead? It sucks that they look the same. The undead look the same as the keepers. No offense to guy. I know you can't hear me, but you undead all look alike. Aha! There we go. Alright. Another quest completed. Now to get my pay. I should dump some of that, dump the other armor that I'm not using into that stash too. Oh, that's right. This shit is. Okay. I teleport, but I don't want to waste my my cobwebs. Ah, no need. No need. He's still drunk. Fergus. 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 Your tunnels are safe now.
You actually did it? Cleared out those tunnels on your own? Every captain before me thought it was a fool's errand, not worth the risk. And how are those tunnels? Salvageable?
They're in rough shape, but at least the monsters are gone.
Aye, that it does. Camelot won't be eager to finance the repairs, but knowing the threat's been dealt with is a victory in itself.
That's right.
Perhaps someday we'll see them restored. Until then, we can at least rest easier. So the keep owes you for this. Here's your reward. And what about Goban's friends? Did you find any trace of them?
All 5 of them. I found their tags.
Give those to Goban, if you haven't yet. He's restless, but maybe seeing those again will help.
Goban's in the...
Might even help him get his act together.
refugee village, right? Okay, yeah, he's the drunk. Okay. I gotcha. After I dump some stuff. Yada yada. Okay, and the armor I'm not using. This helmet is actually... It was strong. It doesn't scale very well though. 5 damage. Not the best. I just don't like the look of this helmet. Oh. I suppose I should pull that out of the chest plates. I'm probably gonna sell this. I'm not super interested in it. Spells don't weigh anything, right? Yeah, they don't. Okay. Probably sell this. Trial of... Oh, he gave me an axe. Killing enemies provides a stackable 20% damage increase for 10 seconds. It's not bad. Great sword. I'll probably sell this. I hate when arrows have a weight to them. Okay. Oh, I didn't actually equip that ring. Let's see. Oh no, I did equip that ring. Okay. 2. I wonder if it's possible to upgrade my rings. I'm gonna go and remove the relic from this armor and put in my new one.
Just another peaceful moment.
That's right. Okay, so... take this out. And stick it in here. There's no reason not to get both relic slots. And there's no reason to upgrade those, so. Production would be nice. How much does this weigh? 8 pounds. 5, 2.5. Meteorite ore. Reduced by 0.5. 0.3. Must be a percentage reduction. Oh, maybe not. 5 to 4.5. Hopefully I find more meteorite ore because I'm going to upgrade this. Oh yeah. You upgrade. Oh. Oh, I see. It's also used for upgrades for that. Okay. Understood. I can't upgrade above +5, looks like, for that, so it's fine. I'm going to hold on to my giant sword for now. Can sell that. Definitely sell that. And yeah, I'm going to sell that too. Hold on to my rings. Okay, alrighty. Oh, it's the ghost. Siggy Bald.
Safe travels.
Okay, so I can just fast travel. Right? Is there... Yeah, there's a fast travel. Alright, go on. You old drunk. Let's give you your tags. Get down in those tunnels. I brought back the tags of your companions.
You went down there?
That's right.
And came back with their tags?
That's also right.
Damn. Didn't think anyone would ever bring those back up. Lads must be resting a bit easier now. Or so I'd like to think. They deserve better than to be left in that pit. You did right by them, stranger. Hell, You did right by me too. So, let's drink to that.
Let's drink to that. You go ahead, I'll pass, buddy.
Suit yourself. Bottoms up.
All right. Clearing out these quests. All right. Only 4 left. Speak with Berg and find out why he's not drinking with him and Finley anymore. Did I did this one? Oop. Oh, down there. Berg.
What do you want? Who are you?
Hadkin. I thought it was a Tegan. Hadkin asked me to speak with you. He said something's gone into you.
Huh. Guess he's got nobody else to get pissed with. Finley never liked drinking alone with him. Tainted tends to get into one of his moods. And? What? That's all? You're bothering me just because that old rascal is sitting alone in the inn with nobody to natter to.
Yep.
You people. Bugger off.
Bugger off. All right. Be that way. Is this the mute? It is the mute, Finley. Mute Finley. Hadkin told me about you and Berg. Why aren't you drinking together anymore? Of course. I need you to be more precise. Do you know what happened to Berg? Yep. He was too upset to talk, and something happened recently. It's something from his past. Yep. Where did I learn more about what happened? Oh. Well, Tadkin, tell me more. No, okay. Learn more outside the horns. Can you point me in the right direction? Oh, you must be writing down on my map. Where did he mark? Aha. Well, the good news is I've passed that area before. I suppose I'll teleport to the strongholds. Walk over there. I forgot I had a horse. Entirely forgot that. All right. To me, my mounts, my steed. Did I mine this? Ooh. Oh yeah. A quick save, just in case. What's the horse's name? Schwierkon? Schwierkon? Whoa, what are you doing, horse? What are you doing? What are you doing, horse? Okay, easy. There you go. Oh, there's enemies. Skeletons. I missed. There we go. He went flying. I don't think I've been here. is this? A shrine? The All-Mother Shrine. Finley sent me to a shrine. Interesting. Okay.
Who's there? The living don't come around here
ghost.
without a good reason. What do you want? To bring me peace? The quiet I so long for? Ask for a blessing from the shrine? You don't want to do that. It never ends well. I'm haunting the shrine, against my will. Wait. I can see you've met Berg. I can see the threads that connect you.
Thread.
Threads. They stick to people. Bind one living being to another. That's all I understand about it. Maybe I've not been on this side long enough. Or maybe I'm just too stupid, even for being dead.
What's your connection to Berg?
I remember him.
Mr.
The rest is a
Berg.
blur. We had a strong bond. We knew each other for years. We served together. Yeah, for years. I don't know much else. I keep forgetting things.
Who are you and why are you
I'm
here?
Kendall,
Kendall.
or I used to be. Hard to tell if I still am. Or only used to be. Maybe I usually am. I don't know. I'm too stupid for this. I once thought ghosts and wraiths must be wise. And yet, here I am.
A stupid ghost.
But that wasn't what you asked me. I don't remember much. I was a keeper, a lance corporal. There was an ambush, bandits. They killed me on the spot. It was right here, exactly in this spot. And from that very moment, I've been bound to this shrine. But I don't want to be. My place is there, in the haunts of the south.
Okay, can I help you?
I need to finish my service. I need to rest somewhere more appropriate. Take my remains. Find Berg. He'll know what to do. That's all.
No, send him to rest. Best friends forever. Anything else in this ruin? Can I not get a blessing from the shrine then? He said I shouldn't, but I guess not. Okay. Robbie from Grubwood. Robbie was just like you and me, and that's what made him the best. A friend to the poor and the downtrodden. He showed the pompous fools where they belonged. Glory to Robbie of Grubwood. Oh, I got an archery. Look for that. I forgot the statues give you stats. Oh, he died in the corner. Kendall's skull. It would just take just his skull. Another 3 pats, okay. Before I teleport back, let's see if I can find another stone, teleport stone. Given the layout, I would assume the eastern. I guess any of them really. Let's go left. Always left. Whoa, 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 whoa. Save. Bandits.
We may be in for a fight.
Disgrace Knight. Ooh, leg.
This is my lucky
Simple enough. I'm gonna bother looting in their armor. Camelot Soldiers Gladius. Tabard? Interesting. There's no reason to wear it. I just wanted to see what it looked like. I thought maybe it was something that goes over your armor. Kind of like Kingdom Come. Camelot Delicacy. Oh, garlic. Always need garlic. Yeah, they had shit tons of garlic. What the fuck? The beef. Let's see what you're hiding here. Spell Slinger. Ooh. Spell Slinger hat. 6 spirituality. I don't have spell stats, but it looks cool. What does this chest piece look like? Okay. I could see that. Kind of like a battle mage kind of thing going on. Increase mana. Increase spell power. Oh, yeah. Caster set through and through. Taking your fish. Oh, they got more. Look at that. I said there was a point of interest over here. What is that? What am I looking at? A shrine? Druidic Shrine. Make an offering of animal parts. Get 5% incoming healing, 3% crit damage. Oh, fuck yeah. Use a deer pelt. Oh, and I hit the level. Nice. Stamina mana cost. Price of sold goods. Do another endurance. Yeah. One extra armor, increase armor value, increase weight thresholds. I could cap that out, or many blows. Consecutive hits reduce stamina. Heavy attacks deal AoE damage. Where's the crit? There it is. Critical hits. No, I think I'm gonna get my threshold up to max first. That way, if I have to, I can equip more heavier armor. I'm getting screwed over. Oh yeah, my threshold is at a good spot. There's any points of interest nearby. I don't see any there's enemies though. That. Where are they? There they are. It's a nice little den they got.
Let your guard down. Strength of 100 men.
Really?
I'll strike you down.
And he's dead. Leader Rogue. Wait, sign bombs. Any sharpening stone? Prism +1. Whiskey. And copper. Not much here. Okay. Who is this? Brock?
Did you make sure that no one from the Queen's entourage was following your trail? Beware her spokespeople.
I like his mask.
And if you're acting on her behalf, be gone and perish!
What queen? What are you on about?
The first time I saw her was years ago, when night fell over Brock Miala, and the gatherers had already fallen into a peaceful slumber. Then, the first sign appeared, a harbinger of what was to come. The mist, thicker than ever before. Wilfred was the first to notice it, as he still tended to the beehives. Finally, from the milky shroud suspended between the earth and the sky, an unexpected procession emerged, led by the Queen of Queens. Oh. We were lucky to be wearing our attire.
What happened next? Who's the queen?
Along with the mist came stinging troubles. The Queen issued a decree, and that meant trouble. That's right. Troubles are like bee stings. Man swells from them, and later on, he doesn't even resemble a human anymore. The most important thing is that both Brock and Brock Miala were protected. Yes, that's the most important thing.
What is he going on about? I don't... Her attire is very peculiar.
It's the attire of many families from Brock Miala. It protected them, just like it protected me. That's right, but I can't give it to you. It shields me from the Queen's gaze. I am invisible to her. I hope you understand. No one wants to be noticed by her.
Oh, okay. Who are you?
Depends on who's asking. Do you bring trouble, or are you in need? Do you hear the
Every time I ask someone who
swarm?
they are, I get some nonsense like this.
No, I can't hear any buzzing from you.
At least this guy,
Hold on.
I'm pretty sure is off his
You don't know
rocker.
what you're doing here yourself, and you are looking for answers, or the right questions. Ah, well, same difference. My name is Brock. If
Oh,
you
he
need something
actually
to
gave me
shield
his
yourself
name.
From evil, you've come to the right place.
Oh, he's got a
Of
shop.
course.
Celestial charm, increased spell. No, yeah. Consumption leads to suffering. Oh, it's okay. It's poison. Okay, so he's an alchemy guy. Gotcha.
Take care of yourself. The Queen can appear anywhere, at any moment.
Sure, buddy. Well, this river, there's a distinct difference between two sides of this river. This is Druid land, isn't it? I saw that wolf. He went through the tree. Not that it matters. Poor pup. I get this one too. Hit it with the stab. Ooh. Diary of a Priestess. I can take your entire... Sorry, ma'am. I can't make an offering? Whoa. What is that? Oh, that's the Druid Circle. Okay. No teleport area though, eh? What did her thing say? I have a priestess. I must walk the path to beseech her to save our most holy haven. Those of the Dal Riata claim we worship the same goddess, but how can I believe these savages who can't even write? I will visit all the chapels, make an offering. I will collect every bit of her grace, sneak back into the temple, cast it into a single powerful amulet, and that will surely work. The All-Mother must hear me. I will never believe that she abandoned us. An amulet, you say? Weird. What a strange headpiece. I can't make any offerings to her. I just realized where the ghost was. That All-Mother statue was bleeding from the eyes. Is that a ancient cromlech? Teleport? Oh, fuck yeah. Okay, cool. Arthur has something to say. Mr. Arthur. Do you know what the cromlechs were for?
That's a question better suited for Merlin if he was still around. I always thought it was where his druids got drunk and danced naked in the moonlight. He was terribly offended when I said that. Gave me an entire lecture about the delicate balance of life and death, how they are intertwined within nature. That, he claimed, was what the cromlechs were meant to be. The heart of their power. A place where it could be harnessed and cultivated. Still, he never invited me to any of their celebrations. He always did hate when I was right.
In that other dungeon, some of these druids, their entire perception was shattered once Arthur resurrected the first time. That's a bear. Okay. I heard a growl. I was like, what the fuck was that? Oh, shit. Okay. That weird beast head is massive. Orb of Recoil and Vortex. Gwydion the Alchemist. Among the royal alchemical weapons, you magical recoil and over vortex and versatility and devastation. The orb of recoil is a sphere and uses kinetic repulsion. Upon impact, it releases a forceful shockwave, throwing back anything caught in its radius. Okay, or vortex is opposite, drawing in rather than repelling. A poorly aimed recoil orb can send allies flying. Or an unstable vortex orb may pull its wheeler into oblivion. Massively hold power to control both battlefields and fate. You throw crystals? Interesting. What is this? Perform the ritual. 1 venison, 1 onion, 1 garlic.
Check it out. They did it. Somebody did it.
Check it out.
Impossible. See, someone's here.
Damned morons!
Nobody could be stupid enough to actually fall for this.
I am. I'm being paid.
Hey, you there. We can't exactly see you because, you know, we're dead. But we can sense that you're here, so...
Congratulations! You've made it to the sacred site of knowledge!
Is that what we call it? I can't believe this shit. They actually fell for it.
I like these two.
I know, right?
I know, right?
Traveler, the knowledge you seek, the knowledge we druids decided to share with you is that... you can kiss our dead magical asses and get the hell back to wherever you came from.
They're laughing.
Now scram.
Laughing. What is this?
Oh yeah, I forgot. They always need answers, don't they?
Right.
What did you expect?
Right.
A monster fight? Some grand artifact to carry you back home?
Yeah. I love both those things. I did expect to be surprised by a monster.
No monsters here. At least none you could fight.
The treasure would have been nice, yeah. Here's my treasure.
People and your treasures.
Hey, what do you mean by you people?
You remembered to take something with you?
Not really.
Here. Here's your artifact.
You must carry it with you at all times, or else. I can't. I just can't.
It's
Now scrap.
These two assholes. They took my garlic, man. That's the main thing. There's really nothing here. Nothing. Nada. Nothing at all. There's really nothing here. Okay. Alright then. This is why you can't trust undead. These fucking ghosts played a prank on me. Well, they played a prank on the doctor. I think that's what sent me here. What does this sign say? Doesn't have any writing. Okay. Is there any points of interest? I don't think so. In which case, I suppose I will go back to town. And he's in. Alright. Bring him Kendall's skull. Berg. I spoke with Kendall.
Bloody hell. Not another ghost. Leave me alone. I swear if you don't leave me alone, I'll kill you.
You could try. I've got Kendall's remains.
Take this away from me. Don't you know this kind of thing tends to bring bad luck? I don't want to see him again.
Again?
I went there one evening. Gods only know why. I could feel something odd. Like I had Kendall thrashing around in my head already, calling to me. I've never been a godly man, you know. One time I visited a shrine, and look what that got me. A ghost hovering over my head. I dug around a bit looking for Kendall's remains, and then I heard howling, got scared and ran away. At first, I thought it was a wild animal, or some weird beast. Thinking about it now, I guessed it must have been Kendall. He was letting me know he was coming. Damn him.
It's not much of a howler, though. I bet they're looking for his remains. They brought you his remains. What's the problem here?
All right. I went there. And Kendall didn't say a thing about a burial at sea. All he said was that he won't know peace until he takes me with him to the underworld. I may be old, and that I don't want to go there yet. The idea terrifies me. Now I see what he's up to. He's using you to remind me of his threat.
Why would he want to kill you? Makes no sense. Why would he haunt you, not the rest of your friends?
It's because... well, he trusted me the most. And I was the one who let him down. When push came to shove, I blew it. Tagden was arguing for the bandits to only take Kendall, and I didn't make a peep. I still remember the way Kendall was looking at me when they were slitting his throat.
What the fuck, Tagden? Arguing for the bandits to only take Kendall. What the fuck? You're the one who's still feeling guilty about this. It's not Tagden.
I don't know. Tagden and Finley seem fine, but I've felt bone-crushing guilt ever since.
Is that why Finley doesn't talk
You'll be
anymore?
wondering if you could have done something more than just beg for mercy. Finley lost his tongue.
Oh, Finley
Tagden
lost
his
his
hand. And me, now I'm an old hobbler missing a leg. We all have wounds to remind us of what happened until the day we die. And that's why we decided to never tell a soul. Please, take his remains away from here. Maybe say a good word about me to his ghost. My years of guilt must surely be enough penance.
Keep the skull. Shit, I don't... He, like, betrayed his friend. They all betrayed him. Everyone makes mistakes. I'm wondering if I can give this to Tadkin. Beg Kendall's ghost to forgive him. I suppose I can do that at least. Where is Tadkin? I actually don't remember. I know Finley's here. That's Gobon. Whatever. Let's go talk to Kendall. Or remind Kendall what happened. And see what he has to say. Tadgett especially. Okay, horse, come on. Tadgett especially could use a nice visit. From my sword. Where? He's this way, right? Yeah, he's this way. Kendall. I talked with Berg. He has me to plead for his life.
Berg, some friend he was, got me real good. Tadgan and Finley also did their part. Tadgan goaded those bandits quite nicely, so they killed me, but not them. But Berg, he was the reason it all fell apart. Damn bastard. Why should I stop haunting him? Out of pity? Nah, he deserves it.
I agree. Oh, this guy did trick me though, yeah. You tricked me, that means I get angry. You wouldn't like me when I get angry. Why did you want me to give him your skull?
Oh, I didn't know how else to find him. Now you've led me to him. Thank you for that. And no, I'm pretty sure I didn't lie. At least not much.
You owe me.
I don't owe you squat. I'm dead. Did you forget?
Yeah, I can just go through all these. Is it Gilridden? It's enough.
I'm not entirely convinced that morality of mortals is something I should be concerned about, now that I'm dead. But alright, I'll consider it. Maybe, just maybe, I'll leave Berg alone. But I won't promise anything.
Ooh. It looks like he forgave him. Well, that's the end of the quest too, so that's that. Oh shit, I forgot to talk to the stupid doctor. Give me your horse. Let's check out another one of these roads. Oh, this is Bald Kate's hideout. I already went in here. Oh, I missed. Oops. Another stranger. No, these are bandits. This is good. Branded skin. And nothing interesting on him. Branded skin. Oh, we need those. And a wolf. I will. I forget where I'm supposed to hand in the skin to. No. Night is descending. What? Stagfather's shrine. Mistling? What the fuck? Whoa. The fuck is a mistling? Ow. Oh, jeez. The mystic and mistlings follow. The offspring of the Mistbearer, lingering shades that stalk the edge of the weirdness. None can say whether they are born in the fog or shaped out of those lost within it. That thing looks cool. Their forms are twisted, their hollow eyes peering through the veil of reality, always lurking, always waiting. Those who encounter them speak of whispers that nod the mind, the air growing heavy and cold, of a presence that watches long before it strikes. A lone mistling is an omen. Pack is a death sentence. This is really cool. I've never... Whoa. They're not super tanky though. Cool as they are. I've never seen an enemy used like that in a game. Arthur time! The hunt. My reward awaits. Oh shit. I just got a bunch of shit. Nice. Bunch of weird bones and weird venisons. Nice. Okay. No teleport. There's something way over there to the east. I'll investigate that soon. I want to see what's in this house. Little cabin. Flowers. Roses. This would be a good resting spot. Or a coward. Here we go. Teleport. I'm gonna go hand in this quest. This one. Dr. Heber. Dr. Heber. Let's tell him the truth about this stupid druid thing. Oh, that's right. This guy doesn't sleep. About that druidic scroll.
Yes? How did it go?
Sick juvenile joke for the druids.
Bastards. If this is how they behaved when they were all still alive, it makes more and more sense that people got fed up with them. But I don't get it, you know? Think about it. You have all this knowledge. You're practically a god among men, and yet you treat them like this. Why wouldn't you let the chosen few in on the secret? Why wouldn't you share the mystical arts? Or even just let them observe? How are we supposed to figure these things out for ourselves? It would have been beneficial for all of us if their writings, their rituals, and their deeds weren't written in code. If they were easier to understand.
They gave me this. Yeah, the mistletoe.
Mistletoe? Really? They gave you mistletoe? Useless junk. And a parasite to boot. Really nice way of proving their point that we're unworthy of their knowledge.
Oh, one more thing. The Cromlech changed after the ritual.
What? Changed? Changed how? Is it bad?
This time before, now the place looks like something from a nightmare. Might have been dark magic involved.
Oh no. No. This is not good. Shit. We already have the undead, the weirdness, and the Del Rita to worry about. We don't need yet another problem on our hands. Besides, it's a known druidic site. What if news of something happening there reaches the Red Priests? They are ruthless in pursuing any remaining druids. If they find out about my interests, I'll be done for.
Get take it away. What do we do now?
We don't do anything because I still can't leave the keep. You need to find a druid and make him reverse this somehow.
Find a druid. I think I know somebody who could
You
help
do?
us.
Oh, that's a relief. I won't ask any details.
There's a hermit
In
on the
these
beach.
circumstances, the less I know, the better. Just tell them they have my gratitude. Please let me know when it's done. Otherwise, I won't be able to focus. I just hope nobody gets seriously ill right now.
Yeah. I don't recall if there's a way to... I might be able to climb down there. If I hop the wall, I should be able to climb down. Oh, and since it's nighttime, I might be able to get some cobwebs too while I'm at it. And up. And down. Oh, there we go. Maybe I should have just teleported. Danheim intensifies. Shit. It's a lot higher than I thought it was. Looks like I got copper ore. There we go. Okay. And down. Monsters. Too slow. The fuck is that? That's right, there's something big that stalks me in the weirdness. The moon looks rotten. This must be Excalibur's offensive ball. At least I found dressed. No, don't go to sleep. No, wake up. Wake up, dressed. Wake up. Are you kidding me? Okay, it's not like Elder Scrolls where you can wake up in the fucking... Alright. Just wait till the morning. Oh, the egg is hatching. Look at him! Look how small he is! It's a baby questing beast. Who's a good baby? What did it? The achievements are the same as Quirko? Quirko? Do a trick. Where'd he go? The fuck? Oh. A buggy. Oh, I hope he's immortal. I'm gonna be really mad if he gets fucking killed. Alright, dressed.
Do you know? Oh, I'm intrigued. Go on. What appears to be the problem?
I performed a ritual in an ancient cromlech and something bad happened.
And I gather it was supposed to happen? Oh, don't worry, I'm not judging. What you do in your spare time is between you and your conscience. Anyway, please continue.
It was just a druidic prank, bro.
One of those. They used to be very popular back in the day. A few friends of mine once spent weeks trying to decide what they thought would be the best prank in history. They had everything. A charred scroll and a malicious spirit trapped and ready to summon. Then they even came up with their own potion. Oh, poor sods.
What happened?
Oh, well, they decided to check if it worked. Unfortunately, it turned out that the spirit was angrier than expected, and that the potion made a person more susceptible to possession. To this day, I'm glad I was too busy to end up disemboweled on the forest.
This is why I don't fuck with magic. It's like a waste of time.
Well, you should say that, because a lot of the elders thought as much. Doing pranks like that was usually heavily discouraged, which was probably one of the reasons why they became so popular.
Of course. The cromlech now looks like something from a nightmare.
God's damned southern druids. I dread to think what they were doing in that place. Don't worry, it's probably nothing a good cleansing can't fix.
Oh, okay. Can you do it?
I guess I could, but what's in it for me?
The satisfaction of doing a good deed. Something to eat. I can threaten him. Some food? How about some mashed taters?
Now you're talking. Right. If you don't mind, I'll take my payment up front. Splendid. Meet me at the cromlech. I will need your assistance with the ritual.
Excellent. Nice, okay. Well, there is a teleport stone this way. Look how cute he is. The baby questing beast. I guess how cute she is. I don't know. It said its name was like Quirko? Red cats. Away with you. I thought the teleport stone was pretty close, but I guess not. I'm literally right between the two. Okay, we'll go up. Iron. Always good. Always need this. There we go. Okay. I don't think I have anything left to do here. You know, I don't remember this quest. Check with Morris. Oh, that's right. This is the guy that was captured by Bald Kate. Okay, let's check on them real fast. Repair this. I don't have the wood. I need a lot of wood to repair that.
It's nice to have a... I promise you, dear. Cat is dead.
Oh, cat. Bald's cat. Sorry.
And they just let you in with that brand. No trouble at all.
No, none at all. You see, I had some help. Oh, you're here. Good.
That's right.
This is my savior. The only one who took down Bald Cat. Oh, I really owe you for that.
Two of you gonna be alright.
No need to worry, love. As long as we're together, we'll be just fine.
Yes. I hope to let us stay here a bit longer. We'll make ourselves useful, but I just don't have the strength to move on right now.
My poor dear. Don't worry, I'll take care of you now. And before long, you'll be as right as rain.
It's my pleasure.
Here, I got a reward for Cat's head.
That's right, he took the head. Okay.
No one believed I was the one who killed her. But to that pencil pusher up there, a head's a head.
And this is from me.
Killian.
It's not much, but no amount of gold could ever repay having my husband back.
250 gold. Oh, nice. And the quest is complete. Alright, so... the Cromlech. Me stacking endurance. They should have enough HP soon. I think I can beat the Excalibur. Challenge. I'm gonna need a lot of potions though. Or save.
Beneath me, sustaining all life. Air around me, inspiring all life. Fire above me, infusing all life. Water within me, soothing all life. Bring deep peace to this sick.
Oh shit.
You have no right to be here. Do you really think you can cleanse the great Cromlech with your filthy soul? Pathetic.
Who do you think you are? My soul will do just fine, arrogant wretch.
You'd know a thing or two about
Is
arrogance.
she a dryad?
Dressed. I see you haven't changed one bit.
Knowing my name doesn't give you any right to claim familiarity with me.
Oh, I know more than just your name. After all, you once called me your little sprout. I was only a child when you left, but I remember you well. I remember the pain and sadness you caused. I even tried writing to you, begging you to come back, hoping it would make everything better. How stupid I was.
Iona? Is it
Iona.
really you? The pod. What have you done to yourself?
Me? What have I done to myself? No, this is all your fault. And you shouldn't put any faith in this one, unless you want to be stabbed in the back.
That's a Rita's side attack. What makes you say that?
It's just what he does. He ruins things. My life, my mother's life, for whom we're all just a means to an end. How on earth did you, of all people, escape the Child Conclave? Why did it have to be you, you worthless traitor?
No matter what you think of me, I will not apologize for surviving.
You bloody well should.
How do you know Drist?
He killed my mother.
Oh.
He used her, stole
Murderer.
her knowledge, and then made her into a showpiece for him and his druid friends to gossip about. And as if that weren't enough, he brought the Red Priests to our home.
Oh, shit.
That's nonsense. I would never.
Nonsense? And how do you think they found us? The druids wanted nothing to do with my mother until you came along.
He wasn't that one who actually killed her.
What difference does it make? My mother
led
was special, and he was a nobody.
the Red Priest to
The
them.
bastard pretended to love her, and then just left, discarded us both like we meant nothing. Mother was heartbroken, even more so when she found out that her beloved made a name for himself at her expense. When the Red Priests came, she didn't even put up a fight.
Who was your mother?
She was a Bandrui.
Bandrui?
One of the few women in history who completed the druidic
Ah,
rite of
female
passage.
druid.
But instead of being celebrated, she was vilified. The other druids detested her for merely existing. She led a very lonely life, until Drast came along. He was the first one to approach her as a fellow druid, curious about her achievements. Except that was also a damn lie.
It wasn't. I swear it wasn't. I just wanted to meet her.
Shut up! Stop lying!
A deadbeat father? How did you end up like this?
I wanted to be like my mother. To stop feeling so helpless. But I failed the ritual. I was too angry, too desperate, and too focused on getting revenge on my so-called stepfather. It quickly overwhelmed me. I ended up like this.
Dryad? I don't even know what you'd call her.
Your mother was exceptional. Just because you're her daughter doesn't mean you could succeed.
If only you were there so I could ask you. But you weren't, because you left us.
So she cursed herself. I came here to cleanse this place, and that means getting rid of you.
Sadly, it does. But there's a different way to do it. I managed to salvage some of my mother's work about the rite of passage. She believed that a failed ritual could be completed with a human sacrifice.
Oh,
A
jeez.
life for a life.
Don't do this, Iona. It will ruin you. Please, you can't let her. There must be something else that can be done.
Oh, you care now. Pathetic. You can stop pretending, Drest. We both know it's not me you're worried about.
I'm not giving you my life.
I don't mean
But I do
you.
That's what I do now.
Drest should pay. I want justice for me and for my mother. I want him to pay for his crimes. It's a fair trade, isn't it?
You for betraying your mother. I don't think it's... That doesn't seem even to me. It will not help you kill Drest.
Fine. Then I'll do it myself. I need these stones drenched
She
with
cursed
blood.
herself. He didn't
His
curse her.
or
He got her
yours.
mom
It
killed,
makes
yeah,
no
but she the one did this to
I will be
herself.
free again.
We'll die. Come here. Oh! And that's the boss fight. Dried resin. Just a nice hit on the head.
Despite everything Iona told you, you still stood by me. Why?
Was it all true?
Most of it, yes. I am not proud of what I've done, but I never thought the consequences would be so dire. Sorsha, Iona's mother, was a marvel.
Sorsha.
True rarity in our lifetime. Female druids.
Hey, Mr. Jack.
Subject.
Mr. Jack the Demon. Good to see you again.
They were treated like nature's
And I am having a
mistakes
lovely night. Hopefully you
instead
are
of
also
our
having a good
rightful
night as well.
sisters. I wanted to be different. I wanted to approach her like an equal, and maybe understand how she'd managed to become one of us.
What happened?
Sasha was happy to finally meet a fellow druid who didn't look at her with disgust. She had accumulated a vast amount of knowledge, and she shared it with me. Delighted
to have someone to discuss things with. We grew close, became lovers. I even tried to be something of a father figure for Iona, although I always felt like she never fully trusted me. Clever girl, my little sprout.
Oh, girl. Am I enjoying the game? I really, I really like this game. I just haven't had time to play it very much. Getting back into it though. How many times have I died? Oh, jeez. Far too many times. But most of my deaths were because I didn't quite understand the equipment system. So if you're wearing heavy shit, you can't really dodge all that well. But thanks to another viewer's tips and tricks, I've gotten back into the getting used to the fast pace movement and combat. But I really like this game, as difficult as it can be. What usually happens too is there's like boss enemies that'll like one shot me too. Did you leave?
Because I realised I was growing complacent. A family, a house, a wee garden. That wasn't what I was meant for. I was supposed to be pursuing knowledge, proving to everyone how
One
wrong they were
little
about
mistake
everything.
leads to my
I
death.
couldn't face Sosha and admit to it all.
But it's just another challenge to overcome.
As for what happened afterwards, I just wanted to share my discoveries with the others. But somehow it made Sosha even less of a person in their eyes.
You know what happened to them?
No, I didn't. After the charred conclave, the world became a terrifying place. All I cared about was my own survival. I didn't even spare a thought for Sosha and Iona. It's... I don't want to talk about it anymore, please.
Damn. What kind of creature was Iona?
A dryad.
Okay, she was a dryad, okay.
That occurs when a female candidate doesn't complete the rite of passage. As you saw, they are extremely powerful.
That one was not. I one-shot her.
To remain more or less tied to the site of the ritual. I can't help but wonder if the solution Iona discovered would have worked as she claimed. It was not ideal, obviously, but it would still have been a breakthrough.
That would have meant killing someone, though. I'm sorry it had to end this way.
But did it have to end like this? I'm sorry, but if you don't mind, I'd like to be left alone now.
Poor guy. Oh, he's gone. What's this game about? It's about it's a game based on Arthurian myth, King Arthur. The premise is that King Arthur, after his supposed death, has resurrected. And you're in this place called Avalon. And in Avalon, there's this mist, this fog that covers the island. No, this is my baby questing beast. And the mist is called the Weird. And the Weird does whatever the Weird wants to. Usually that means making monsters or curses and ghosts and stuff like that. But before Arthur died I don't know how many times he's died. Merlin established all these statues called Menhir statues that ward off the weird and basically give these little pockets of civilization that you see here. In addition, King Arthur's sword, the Excalibur, which is right here, also wards off the weird. Very dark setting. And to answer your question about killing that guy, I could. I don't want to though. I'm no murderer. And he's been through a lot. But I can hand in this quest to the doctor.
I figured it out. The mistletoe. Oh, how could I have been so blind this whole time? It's obvious, don't you see?
It is, please
They
explain.
weren't laughing
I would never,
at me,
ever,
do you
yeah.
see? They were telling me to embrace the part that I play in the world. The part that we all play in the world. Listen, mistletoe was their sacred plant, right? We know it's a parasite, and in extreme situations, can even kill the tree on which it grows. Why would you worship a parasite? I finally got it. They realized that if everything goes well, it has minimal effect on the tree. Sometimes it's even able to give something back. Even better, it's evergreen, so birds can feed off it in winter. And even though it's poisonous to humans, druids were able to make medicine out of its fruits. Do you see?
I don't.
It's so obvious.
What is he going on
It's
about?
No wonder the answer eluded us all. It's not about the mystical arts, the scrolls, or the rituals. That's all smoke and mirrors. It's about observing nature and drawing the right conclusions. Mistletoe feeds off the tree, but it doesn't just take. It gives back, just like we all do. We always take from something. The trick is to give back more than we take. That's meant to be our role in the world.
That's a bit depressing.
It really isn't, though. I've been obsessed with their power and their rituals. I thought there was some forbidden knowledge that could make me more. But it turned out it's not about gathering knowledge and power just for the sake of it. It's about understanding our place in the world as parasites, but useful ones. There's no more knowledge to gain besides what's already here. The trick is, we need to learn to see it. This is my new quest.
For context, this man does not sleep. He came up with a potion that lets him stay awake for weeks at a time. So he tends to ramble. The Cromlech is safe again.
There goes another chance to join the guild. I really thought that scroll would be my way in. Instead, it just caused a mess I couldn't even clean up myself. Anyway, what happened back there?
There's an angry dryad. Wait, what guild are you talking
The
about?
Alchemists Guild, of course.
Alchemist Guild, okay.
Though it's more of a secret society than an actual guild. And I probably shouldn't be telling you this. But who cares? Taranis is probably right. I'm just not cut out for it. They'll never recruit me, so why bother trying?
Taranis. Who's Taranis?
I've been in contact with the guild since my time in Camelot. They promised me that if someone ever came to the south, they'd reach out. Taranis showed up with the Dalriata, and I managed to meet him just before the captain ordered the lockdown. Let's just say he wasn't exactly impressed with anything I had to show.
Okay, so where do I find him?
With the rest of the Dalriata? I'm not sure. He did mention coming here to hunt some creature, but I was too busy wallowing in self-pity to listen properly.
There's an angry dryad trapped in
now
Cromlech. Yes,
that's
back to the
just
Cromlech.
fantastic. Another discovery slipped right through my fingers. I guess I'm doomed to stay here, curing hangovers for the rest of my days.
Maybe I'll finally be able to unwind a little. And there's still the mistletoe. I think it has a meaning, and I might be getting closer to grasping it.
I'm not so sure about that, Doctor. Those druids are pretty clear. It's just a big joke. Okay. That is almost all of my side quests done. Ramhar No Face. Did I not kill this guy? Oh, he's way up there. Okay. Talk to Kieran's husband, so I think we're almost done with this act. That's up north too, right? They're all the way up there. I don't know what's over here though, but we'll go back to the dark forest. Here we go. Alright. And fast travel. No need for my horse. Just me and my questing beast. Now we're points of interest. And wolves, of course. Good materials. There's a lot of deer here. Okay, he ran right through the tree. Come on. Okay, one of the bandits is up here. The final bandits. And I need to hunt down. What? What is that? Oh shit, there's bees! Not the bees! Bee swarm. That Brock guy was actually, he meant actual bees. I thought he was just talking shit. Who is this?
You, this, take.
I don't want anything. What is this?
An invitation. The Queen. Her word. The highest law.
My god, his head is a honeycomb.
A servant.
Queen bee invitation. It's a picture of a bee. Covered in honey. Okay. See, Brock talked about the Queen of Queens. I didn't, and bees. I guess he was being literal. Went to prison. Confrontation looks like hope. Brock told me that Queen Bee took over his village. Sometime later, met her envoy. And then we did a settlement. Okay then. I'll definitely go see that after I kill this bandit. Go north first. Red caps. Oh shit. There we go. Lots of red caps. Kaboom. Shrine of the Bear. 3 bear claws. I have bear claws, but they're... Ew, what is that? Creepy. Oh, there's lots of them. Damn red caps. Where? Okay, so... I'm assuming distance leads out. Oh shit, is that an ogre? Shit, I hate these flame gobblers. Right in the butt. Oh, goodness. Oh, shit. Okay, we're good, we're good. These ogres aren't that tough. Yeah. Gotcha. Ogre claw. Okay. Hot goo. Okay, so I got the fast travel spots. There's something up there. I'm gonna deal with the bandit first. Pull the blazing sword. Alright, you bastards.
We have company.
Oh, he's very strong. Okay.
Your wealth is ours.
Oh,
your wealth is ours.
Oh, I'm fucking dead. Okay, he hurts really bad. There's a huge spike in damage potential from bosses compared to the regular mooks you come across. Alright, try this again.
Keep your wits about you.
Oh, the knockdown. Nice, 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 nice.
You made a big mistake.
Oh, this sucks. Gotcha.
Your road ends here.
Gotcha with the parry.
Your wealth is ours.
Oh, the feint. Okay. Gotcha. And you're dead. Alright. Got his head. Pico Hunter. E. I agree. He is a very fine letter. Just kidding. Oh, welcome. Howdy. Lost some accursed well. Okay. Pulse. Fish. What is this? Meteorite? Oh, iron. Okay. You parried, scrub? That's right. That's right. Aspirate, lettuce. Yeah, we don't use shields around here. Volcanic tree bow. What is this? Oh, that's the next area. Okay, Kunakt. I don't want to leave the area yet. I'm not done here. Where's my horse? There you are. Just teleports in. It suits down that other path. Something's angry at me. Up there. Ooh. Ancient cave. Oh, hell yeah. Cheese. Okay. Oh, I leveled up. I didn't even realize. Oops. Endurance. Okay. Okay, so I've got my thresholds up. I think I want to go into crits now. For the biggest, strongest hits. Learned exposure to Avalon. That bandit I just killed. Yeah, the bandits, or at least in this game, these boss enemies, they hit way hard. Miss Paris dead. They hit way harder than everything else. That doesn't help in playing on veteran too. Who's this?
I see the burden. There's nothing for you here, Wanderer. The doors are closed.
Oh, Tyrannus.
And if I couldn't open them, you won't either.
Who are you?
Tyrannus of the Thoid tribe, Dalriata. And you?
I don't bother introducing myself to soon to be dead. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise. Great
You don't go
minds
around
think
threatening
alike.
people in this game.
Apparently, they're drawn to the same places. If you're set on going further, you'll need every bit of life force you have.
A curse for killing a member of the Thoid tribe could take half of it.
Is this place?
I thought that since you're here, you'd know what lies behind these stone doors.
You don't know what I'm capable of.
Many have tried. I thought I was worthy, but I keep failing. I've been camped here for 3 moons. There's no life for me outside this cave. If I can't get through, this is where my story ends.
Why do you care so much about getting past these doors?
This is my destiny, one I chose for myself. I'll either get through or die trying. But my strength is fading. This isn't how I wanted it to end.
What will I meet?
It is death and magic. It draws its power from the ancient mist. Of those who went hunting for it, only a scant few ever returned to their tribes.
Cursed
Look
cave.
for the mist, and in the mist for antlers and an evil eye. They say its feet
Antlers
don't
and
touch
an
the
evil
ground.
eye.
Though those are the words of the madman who somehow survived an encounter with it. We call them the Mist Bearers.
You want to hunt a mist? Is that? There's this thing that like stalks me at nighttime, when the mist comes out.
Everyone from Thoid wants to
It's
face
big and
one
it's
of
got
their
antlers,
race.
but it always disappears
And
when I
I'd
get close
love
to
get
it.
my hands on one of their corpses. Those are priceless and can be used for strong magic. If you manage to slay the Mist Bearer, I'll pay you in gold for everything you bring back. At least I'll get something out of this pointless mission. Then maybe I'll invite you to further collaboration.
Collaboration? What do you
Return
mean?
alive,
What did he
you'll
mean by
find
this?
out. Good luck, Wanderer. May fate be kinder to you than it has been to me.
And to you. Okay, so I would have thought the fucking button would not have worked, but there's corpse eaters in here. Definitely want those. Skeletons. Yeah, most of the regular enemies die pretty fast. It's guys like that bandit you were talking about. They hit hard. They hit like trucks. I missed? How did I miss? I didn't miss that time. Oh, there's one idea, Hansels. Great potion material? It does. All the gods. Oh, I already have this. I thought he was I thought that skeleton was part of the wall. Like, what am I looking at? Ground mist bearers. Grind them up into a potion. Oh, garlic, yes. Just the garlic. And wood. I realize that I always end up making, like, I guess Witcher kind of builds in these kinds of games. Got my sword, got my potions. That's all you need. There you go. Here's in a protein shake, right? I usually stick my local mist bearers into a juicer myself. Oh, this is really... okay. Skeletons. Okay. Okay, that's where I'm supposed to go, so I'm not going to go that way yet. I'm going to sweep this upper floor first. Dead ends? Oh, chests. Yes, yes. Starborn egg? Nobody deals additional 10% damage. Oh, nice. Let me go get my sword. Theft? How is that theft? There's nobody here. Leaving from these monsters. A criminal, am I? Dick. Oh, the skeleton was tending to his garden. Carrots, lettuce, rosemary. Oh, yeah. Poor guy. I don't need to cook. I just want to loot. Purple Guardians. Oh, I got an achievement. 50 lockpicks. Flaming Cloak? What? What's the matter? My little questing beast. Who's a good questing beast? Who's a good little abomination? Why have multiple cloaks now? Generate mana? Nah. Slowly burns nearby enemies. 5 practicality. I wonder how strong that is. The perfect ring for a warrior. Increased physical damage by 5%. A microwave axolotl. He does actually does look like a. Who's a good puppy? Good trick. Oh, okay. No more tricks. But I will pet you. You are disgustingly cute. In a horrifying way. Okay, that's the upper level. Yeah, I can go down now. He's got hops, yeah. I hope the boss here is challenging. If there's a boss in here. I wonder why that druid can get through. I came in here just fine. Ew. Or not druid, he's a Dalriata. I don't know the difference. Oh, here we go. It smells like a boss site. You poke them and they fly 20 feet. Yeah. I like the physics in this game. It's very satisfying to kill something. What am I looking at? Ooh. Is that him? Is that the weird bearer? Let's say weird beast. Oh shit, okay. I got bills now though. It's one. Oh, I'm lagging a bit. Two. Oh shit, okay. Woo. These things, they don't hurt too bad, but let's ignite the sword. Voltron style. Protein shakes are your gum, yeah. You will be ground up with the powder. Oh, I'm out of stamina though. Where'd you go? There you are. Get here. Whoa, that big crit. Damn, I almost killed him. I just... Oh, he fucking moved. he's fucking immune. Okay, I see. Oh shit, he's got shadow clones? Come on. Is that everyone? Okay, it's 3. Come here. Damn. Think this is him? Maybe? But his stamina. These things are very easy. The big one was tricky. Now. You bastard. I think it's this one. Are you serious? Oh shit. There we go. Gotcha. Reach level 20. Nice. Hey. I did it. Where's his eye? Or did I already get it? I'm assuming it just gave it to me. The bandit next door was scary. He was, yeah, he actually killed me. He killed me once. What the fuck is that? Ominous portal. Where there's an ominous portal. Oh. It just plops me outside, okay. Well, I took care of his little mist bear problem, so I can go hand that in. Oh, Arthur has memories. I can't put bonfires in here. Upstairs. And around. Little lost. I think this is the way. Yeah, here we go. Oh, hello. There you go. Excuse me.
Careful. You did it. Impressed.
That's right.
I wish I'd been the one to face the Mistbearer, but I bow to the one who managed to slay it.
Here are his remains, his eye.
Excellent.
His shiny eye.
And here's your reward.
Registering about further collaboration.
Yes, I did. With your courage, you've proven yourself a worthy candidate for the ranks of the Alchemists Guild. And to be honest, it's been a long time since I've felt this confident about a new guild member. So, if you're interested, I might have a few assignments for you.
There's assignments, there's
What do you
gold.
say?
Gold to make. I'm in. That's my first
We
task.
have a valuable member, a researcher of the weirdness named Eckhart from Connacht. A very wise man. I have my own mission to complete, so finding out why he hasn't contacted us falls to you. I'll mark his workshop on your map. If something unfortunate has happened to him, at the very least, recover his research. Let's meet at the statue of the Morning Harpist in Connacht.
Connect. Okay, that's the second area. We'll definitely head to after I finish this area. Protein shake seems more and more likely. Given that it's the Alchemist Guild, yeah, it does. Grind him up into a... Oh, it's nighttime. level up. Go. Stacking endurance. And now stacking crits. Increased chance of crit, okay. That's a 20% chance there's fully restore your stamina. Well, I definitely want at least the base crit chance. Okay, so for some reason I can't talk to Arthur there. Alright, Mufasa, what you got to say? What do you know about the Mistbearers?
Not much. I never encountered one myself, but I heard stories about them. Mistbearers, like most creatures on this island, emerged from the weirdness. They were always drawn to magic. The druids believed they fed on it in some way. Merlin forbade his apprentices from hunting them. Druids were too valuable to our war effort to be distracted by such pursuits, and they were meant to carry on Merlin's legacy should he fall. What became of them after the war,
okay,
I do not know.
Interesting. Soul's Delights. Oh, yeah. And my beloved cabbage rolls. There we go. The more I hear about Merlin, the more I'm maybe thinking Merlin knew a lot more than he was letting on. Poor Arthur. And this is why you can't trust wizards. There we go. Okay, so... Oh, Eckhart's workshop is right there, okay. Oh shit. Whoops. I don't see any points of interest in my compass, so... So we can find Eckhart's workshop. Whatever that weird beast will attack me too. While I'm here, I suppose I should hand in that head. I've been holding on to it for like an hour now. There we go. Back to Killian. Killian is asleep. Fuck. Sleep till the morning. Weird beast. I don't know what it is. I think it's a weird beast. I don't know. It's this tall fucking thing that stalks you at nighttime.
Please, state your business.
He's been stalking me for like multiple nights, but he hasn't actually attacked, so. Bromar No Face.
Well, the famous Bromar. No face and no life. That savage wiped out an entire unit of Camelot's infantry. But he couldn't take you down, huh? It's like the gods themselves made you for the job. Though I'm not
But I thought it was a Mistborn. Yeah, I thought the Mistborn was that.
Certainly earned the gratitude of the
The
capital.
thing that stalks you at nighttime.
You are truly remarkable. I've
That's why I was
never met
confused
anyone
seeing it
with
in the
such an
cave.
insatiable thirst for blood. I almost wish there were more bounties left.
I was like, oh, I have to actually stay out at night and go fight it, but
Please,
I guess not.
take this as a token of Camelot's gratitude.
Is it a weird beast
And
that they
keep
get
up the
nighttime?
good work. I hope it brings you as much satisfaction as it does me.
Go.
Oh, I see you still have... Do you keep...
Camelot's ring. Increase max health by 10, increase stamina by 5. Not bad. Not the best, but my other rings are just better. I don't know. Okay. I don't know either. I just don't know, man. I just don't know. But that's fine. I've almost cleared this map. I just don't know. That's right, I gotta go see the Queen of Bees, or whatever that... Whatever that quest wants me to do. Oh, my horse is waiting for me. Nice. Let us go. Is he up or is he down? Oh, he's right there, okay. Oh, no, bear claws. Oh well. Eckhart's Cave. I didn't even notice this cave. I walked right past it. Mr. Eckhart. I am thieving from your food supply. Oh shit, there's bandits. You're a fast one, aren't you?
Your wealth.
Watch this. Always left. Oh, Eckhart's dead. Okay. Search for his research journals. Here we go.
We have company.
Too slow. A broadsword. Okay. Oh, poor guy. Oh, that's not Eckhart. Where's Eckhart? Oh, he's right here. Oh, shit, I didn't mean to take everything off of him. Got a nice ring, though. Wine. Fortune potion. Where this appears to be a chaotic fog, but I suspect a hidden structure, an order beyond my current understanding. Initial tests with metallic salts show the misreaction in alchemical compounds, altering their color and composition unpredictably. The spark of life, however, remains untouched by this fog, leading me to believe it operates on principles unlike those of our world. There are rules of sorts to the weirdness. I remember that from Tainted Grail Conquest. They exposed several organic compounds out of weirdness, expecting rapid decay, but witnessed instead a form of synthesis. Plant cells displayed unusual resilience, briefly sustaining growth in a way akin to primordial life. Is the fog acting as an incubator, nurturing rather than destroying? When I attempt to isolate particles in the weirdness, you'll trace elements that resist classification. These particles appear to cling to living cells as if drawn by some intrinsic energy. It has been a glimpse of the fabled spark. The particles dissolve on their own, leaving me questioning their role in creation. Let me start jotting my notes in a new diary. Run out of space here. That's one. Got any more? Spirits need those. Number 2. Light a controlled alchemical fire to samples of the weirdness, hoping to observe a reaction similar to combustion. Instead, the fog seemed to absorb the fire's energy, growing denser and shifting hue. This may indicate that the fogs can store energy, a concept I yet to fully understand. Recent tests reveal the weirdness has no effect on inert matter, yet it resonates powerfully with anything bearing life energy. The fog's attraction to living things may explain its ancient presence, perhaps awaiting activation by life's very spark. This possibility could hold profound implications to the guild's pursuit, the true source of life itself. In an attempt to draw the spark of life directly from within the weirdness, I witnessed a reaction unlike any I've seen, a fleeting manifestation of form emerging from the mist itself. It held shape briefly before collapsing, and in that moment I glimpsed pure potential. Creation at its most raw and unrefined. This could be the first step towards unearthing life's very essence. Well then. Maybe a cobweb. Rare product of the weirdness is as delicate as it's potent. When thrown into fire, it reveals its primary property, repelling the weirdness, a vital defense against the mist advance. We believe its potential goes beyond a single use. Alchemist skills of actually studying whether if Kaba may act as a conduit for life energy or as a protective amulet, or with chaos but offering protection, may hold secrets that bring us closer to understanding life's essence. This treatise tells about all alchemists to join in exploring its properties. Those caution and curiosity so we may harness its mysteries wisely. It is strange that the cobwebs push back the weirdness. Nothing really. Okay. I have his books. Fairy tales. I have his books, but there's bandits here. Yeah, where there's bandits, there's treasure. Ah, secret cavern. Okay. Oh, these will be very helpful. Okay. Crabs. Yes. Ah. The great mana potion. Winter Crone's Wrath. Who's a good boy? You are. That's who. Come, we must find more bandits to slay. Quick save. Oh, I see you. We're in trouble hitting each other. Oh, this damn slow.
We'll make short work.
Make short work of this. Ow. Parry and dead. Spirit's excellent. He's already saw this, rid of the weird fog, and now he's dead. Average bandit moment, right? Well, you can't trust these bandits. All they do is loot and kill. Which is what I do as well. We're not that different from each other. However, I would not kill Eckhart. Or anyone like Eckhart. Now, let's use this stuff. I didn't check up here. Silk fiber. And a chest. Arcanist sword. Increased spell power by 14%. That would be nice if I were a spellcaster. My casting stats suck though. Nature of the weirdness. I don't think I found this book before. There are 4 types of substance. Perceptible, either eternal or destructible, non-perceptible, and magical. Eternal perceptible substances like the sun and the stars are incorruptible and move without rest. Destructible perceptible substances include plants and animals subject to decay and recognized by all. Non-perceptible substances exist beyond senses, such as ideas or mathematical equations. These are independent and mobile, thus outside the realm of physics. Magic substances also elude physics. Their nature incomprehensible, and even if they have perceptible attributes. Weirdness is a perceptible magical substance. It has observable qualities like color and density and is subject to motion, rising and creeping toward unprotected areas while repelled by miniors. Its magical essence is undeniable as it interacts with destructible substance, causing decay and transformation. It's not theft if it's already stolen, right? I'm doing the world a favor. Clearing out all these bandits. some philosophy stuff right there, yeah. Okay, so that's the next area. This looks like it's the final side quests, maybe? We ride. It sounded like a bunch of hoodoo to me, but what do I know? It is my dump stats, so. Have I been here? Ooh. Last stand pushing, okay. Okay, it's not like a shrine or anything. I was wondering how I was going to get across. Luckily. There's this stuff. Forlorn Frostbitten Bow. Okay. Not too big on using bows, but maybe I'll get some nice gold. I've got a good amount of coinage. Are these beekeeper huts? That Brock guy mentioned his friend was a beekeeper. Where the Queen of Queens, the Queen of Bees appeared. What is wrong with my compass? Oh. Brock Biala.
You here.
I am here.
She is there. You will take the path. You will hurry.
Why is the queen so on me? The queen bee.
Every queen needs a consort.
Consort?
Consort. You.
What happened here?
Brock Miala. Home.
Had to be her consort?
Life needs a home. We want to live.
Fair enough. Why do you torment Brock?
Brock. Consort. Traitor. Brock refused. The Queen's heart is broken. The Queen will love. We will all love.
Oh. Uh-oh. Oh boy. He didn't even wait for me to give an answer. He just whisked me away. Had to be a consular? Oh, this nightmare shit. Okay. Used to have my sword. Oh my... Yes. Give me your strength. Thank you. I now have what it takes to carry on. Oh, it's like a nightmare version of... the area. My queen. I have returned. Ooh. There's honey everywhere, dude. Honeycombs. I want to see what she looks like first before I decide. Which may be shallow, but I'm not getting a lot of options here. I'm gonna save. The Queen's Chamber. Your blind date is here, my queen. Oh. My queen? It's tough.
My knight.
She's very tall.
Protector.
She's very big.
Are here. I have waited so long for you.
She's a bit too monstrous. Just a bit. I want you to leave this place. Why have you summoned me?
This is my home. I need someone to bridge the gap between my home and the world.
She's more bee than queen.
Someone to care for us. Our protector.
What do you expect of me, my queen?
There is one who betrayed me. Brock. Once he was my consort. My chosen. My protector. He was mine. I entrusted him with the hive. With me. And he fled. Left me. Abandoned his queen. Such betrayal is unforgivable. It weakens us. Weakens me. Find him and silence his song. Do this, and I shall reward you. The hive shall reward you. Now go, end this discord.
A reward, huh? I haven't agreed to anything yet. I want to know what that reward is.
I have expressed my will, Protector. You must fulfill it, or perish.
We'll see about that. I'm curious about a reward because as far as I know, Brock is just walking around rambling about bees and queens. How'd he go? Is good in the Mistborn protein shake? You got a point there. Fuck it.
Then go forth into the world, and do not fear, my knight. My will shall always be with you.
I wonder what Arthur thinks about all this. He's like, bro, really? Gotta find Brock. Find Brock and put him out of his misery, I guess. He's down here. I kind of feel bad that I'm going to do this, but she's piqued my curiosity. And I wonder what the reward is.
You're here again. And that means the troubles didn't stink you. Do you need anything?
Brock, you betrayed the queen. You must die.
She's dragged you into her wretched scheme. And I thought you had more sense. Know this, though. I won't surrender without a fight.
That's the idea. Oh, you got moves. Okay. Dodge this. His fault we're getting... Right? I didn't do anything wrong. The queen has commanded me, and I will obey. Max mana. Max mana. Okay, he's got like a caster set. In other words, useless. 3%. Oh, okay. I want my reward. The Brock Biela. Oh shit. Where? Oh. There we go. My queen. I've done thy bidding.
Return to me with cobwebs in hand, and you shall be rewarded.
Brock is dead, my queen.
Ah. So, the little stray who fled has been silenced. How pleasing. He thought himself free. A fool. There is no freedom beyond the hive. There is only loneliness, only weakness. But you have done well, my Knight Protector. But the hive's work is not yet complete. A foundation must be woven, strong and
What about my reward? I was promised a
The
reward.
threads of creation must be gathered, and you shall help me. I am building a home, a sanctuary for my hive, but I require power. One day, we shall descend upon the world, and all will become part of the hive, part of me. Ethereal cobwebs are the very fabric of our home. Bring them to me, and you shall
This
be
must be an
rewarded
ongoing
many
quest.
times over.
Why do you want ethereal cobwebs?
Is what allowed my children and I to enter your world. Brock Mayala is the perfect place for our home. Cobwebs bind our worlds together, as we shall be bound once you fulfill your duty, my knight.
There it is, evil plan.
It is the substance that binds the world.
There's always like the catch.
It is the strongest,
catch-22.
most precious tool we need. From it, we weave the world and our homes, which shall never fade.
What do you mean by everyone will
The
become part of
world
the
you
hive?
come from will one day be ours. The hive will grow in strength and consume all who stand in our way. Bring me as many cobwebs as you can carry.
See, she promised me
Such is
a reward.
my will.
Oh, there it is. Sting? I know that blade. Hitting a target poisons them. But does it glow blue? The presence of orcs. "50 cobwebs."
My knight. You
Hold
have
on a
your
sec.
task.
These are like really useful
Return
though.
to-
Why would I give her 50 cobwebs? In the presence of wasps. If I give her 10, what do I get if I give her cobwebs? That's what I want to know.
Go now. You come very.
How many cobwebs do I have? These things are already scarce as is. And I need them for the... Yeah, you know what? Fuck this. This bitch. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Oh, shit. Oh, she's actually kind of... Okay. Well, the Blaze's sword. There we go. I got you, cobwebs. She's pretty tanky. She doesn't hurt very hard. So, hurt very hard? She doesn't hit very hard. I can speak. Die, monster. You don't belong in this world. Oh, her concert. That's more than she does. Oh, shit. Damn. I got potions, though. I thought I had potions, so we got life sucker. Some small potions. That'll work. Oh. Okay, this guy's a dangerous one. Getting a lot of skill ups from this bitch. She actually summons bees. I was like, what is hitting me? Eat my buffs up. Deal with cold sword. Gotcha. Lifesteal is very strong, I can see. I know there's some talents to give lifesteal. Watch my stamina. I got her though. Let's not get cocky. There we go. Okay. Enough of you. The Queen's Honey. Queen's Honey. Elder Super Honey for months, yeah. 100% health, 100% mana, 100% stamina. That's the oh shit button right there. Oh. I'm the queen now. And this is the only friend I need. Do a trick. There he is. No more queens. No more bees. I feel bad for Brock because I killed him for no reason, but I'm sure he'd be happy to know that the queen is dead. Looks like Arthur has something to say. I hope he's not mad at me for killing the queen. Oh, I guess he didn't have anything to say. I did level up, though. Okay, this should max out my crits. There we go. Get my Arthur time back. Sword out of Anna reference. It's true, I did get the sting. I feel like a lot of these games have a sting somewhere hidden in them. And otherwise, I wanted Kingdom Come. I was happy to see. That's in Knock. That's in Knock. Okay. I can talk to Fergus. Bergus. Ooh, I can finish this act. I've done every side quest. I'd like to speak with the captain. I saw the problem at the cemetery for you.
You've done your part in proving your worth. All right. You deserve the truth. You won't find the captain at the Horns of the South. He ordered us to lock down the keep, and then He disappeared.
Oh, that's good.
I have my suspicions about where he might be, but I can't say for sure. And
Said a lot more not a bee.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing to do with bees in Kingdom Come. They get ignored armor if I remember right. Which is fitting. He doesn't know where the captain is? Tell me your suspicions.
Brandon once said he wasn't afraid to go to the Dol Riada, and the way he said it, I couldn't tell if he was joking. So maybe he went to make a deal with them? I think that's ridiculous. Everyone knows the Dol Riada are savages. Diplomacy is not their strong suit. But if it's true, if the captain did go to broker peace with the Dol Riada, you'd most likely find him at the All-Mother's Temple, where One Eye and his thugs are holed up.
Sounds like a suicide mission.
Getting into the temple won't be easy, that's for sure. And frankly, I'd prefer not to hear about your demise. Try sneaking in quietly, or see if you
I'm not
can
gonna
convince
sneak.
the tribe's representatives to let you
Tell you that
through.
right now.
That's the best advice I can give you. And if you do find the captain, tell him to return to the Horns of the South as soon as possible. Galahad the Pure is already on his way, and he won't be pleased to find a bunch of
Galahad's
keepers
alive?
hiding behind the walls without their commander.
How is he
We'll
still
all face
alive?
consequences if that happens.
Arthur's been dead for like 1,000 years or whatever it was. Okay, I could try for the sword now. But I need potions. Lots and lots of potions. We have lots of money now. I can actually feasibly try this. Strongest first, weakest next. Alright. The toothache remedy, yes, yes. Okay. I'm going to try this. Okay. Let me make sure I have potions equipped. All right, let's give this a good old try. Good old fashioned try. Eat this. All right. You know, I hit the wrong. I hit the wrong button. Save me. I did. I quick saved. Instead of hitting my drink button, I hit the switch quick item button. Oops. Shit. Okay. One more try. That didn't count. Come on. Come on. Oh, I was very close. Okay. I think I can get it. Let me try one more time. I think food stacks. Yeah, there we go. Come on, 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 come on. Damn it. Shit, I got that honey, don't I? Oh no, I did do it. Oh shit. I knew I could do it. Okay, this is the second piece of Arthur.
I am his will, the fire that bends
Excalibur.
the world to his command.
Bind the soul to the stone.
I am the blade that shapes kings and shatters tyrants.
Okay. Oh, that's it. Okay. What is going on up here? Blood?
Enough, Merlin. You can't keep throwing lives into this abyss. These experiments, they're destroying what remains of us.
Destroying us? They're what's keeping us alive.
Oh, that's Merlin.
Do you think the Four Dwellers will stop for pity or mercy? Every soul we lose here saves 10 more on the battlefield. You told me to do this. You sanctioned this. And I'm close to getting it right. I know it.
No, we can't justify this. There's no victory worth such a cost.
Drama.
You know full well, Arthur, that this isn't about victory. It's about survival. If we don't push these boundaries, there will be no future for your kingdom. For Avalon, you dream of peace, but without victory, there will be no peace to dream of. The path ahead is brutal, but if we relent now, we lose everything.
And yet we keep losing people and gaining nothing in return. We must change the path.
They volunteered for this.
They volunteered to save our kingdom, and you've gotten no closer to doing it. Their sacrifices cannot be in vain, Merlin. Find another way. Use your mind, your wisdom. Leave this slaughterhouse you've created behind.
A different way. That will take time, and resources we may not have. The enemy won't wait.
They will if I make them. Whatever it takes, I will buy you that time. Find me a weapon that wins this war without annihilating what we fight to protect.
The audio's a little off.
Whatever it takes.
Yes. Let it be known that it was my decision, and I will bear the consequences of it.
Oh no, my king. People can never know. It was all my idea, and you knew nothing about it. All of us have our role to play. You are the leader, and they need to love you. If we win, you need to become more than a man. You need to become a symbol.
King's power unlocked. The hollow blade. You've got a new fragment of Arthur's soul. Unlock its hidden potential. Open the menu to explore the King's soul skill tree. King's soul. I'm gonna get you out of there, Arthur. Uh-oh.
Now, I remember.
So you knew all about it.
Before you judge me, it all seems so obvious now, doesn't it? The right thing to do. It wasn't back then, and you can trust me on that. We were on the brink of losing the war, and wars aren't won with wishful thinking. There was no clean path, no noble answer. Only the weight of reality pressing down on our necks. Something had to be done, or everything we fought for would have been in vain. And in the end, the ones who stepped forward, who chose to pay the price, made it possible. And their deaths gave Merlin the knowledge he needed to finish his work. To find something that could really turn the tide in our favor.
You agreed to lie to your people about your role in all this.
I did. But this wasn't about pride. It wasn't about saving face. It was about survival.
Yes, that is what Merlin said.
The truth about all this would have broken my people. I couldn't allow that. and a king doesn't get to flinch. If that meant carrying the weight alone, so be it. I would make that choice again if I had to.
You really think that experimenting on your men was justified?
Justified?
Arthur.
No.
Arthur.
Justification is for those who have the luxury of doubt. And I had a kingdom to save. They were brave men who volunteered their lives, just as they did every time we rode onto the battlefield. The difference was that if Merlin succeeded, one man's sacrifice could have saved us all, could have ended the war before more blood was spilled. If sacrificing a few meant the survival of all, then there was no choice at all. Maybe they never saw justice. Maybe their real stories were erased from history. Call it cruelty. Call it madness. But if I'd done nothing, there would be no Avalon left to argue over. But the kingdom still stands. The people live. And that has to mean something.
So what did he come up with to win the war? What did Merlin come up with?
I told him to stop the experiments on our men.
I know he made the menhirs.
Keep going.
Or at least he found them.
He started experimenting on the Four Dwellers.
Oh, goodness, okay.
If their bodies could be broken down, their power turned against them, wasn't that their own doing? Wasn't that fair? So he figured out how to twist the Four Dwellers' power into something we could wield.
Much like what Eckhart was researching.
To conquer the weirdness. And in the end, he did.
What?
He found a way to make me stronger. Stronger than any man had the right to be. It wasn't just magic. It was something deeper, older. A force that reshaped me. And with it, we won. The war ended. Avalon was ours. The bloodshed stopped. The banners were raised. And the kingdom stood safe.
Does victory erase the price you paid for it?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is.
I keep thinking about Seawall. He was ready to pay the ultimate price for what we were fighting for. And I thought he did. I grieved him. Told myself his sacrifice had meaning, that he had given his life for Avalon. And now, after all these years, finding him like this, I told myself I carried the weight of my choices. But seeing him, I wonder if I ever truly did.
Oh, Arthur. What the fuck have you done? I understand his desperation. As they fled their homeland to get away from the Red Death. Only to meet up with the Four Dwellers. Excalibur.
Look again, like you've seen something you wish you hadn't.
Caradoc?
Another piece of the king's soul reclaimed, right? What did it show you this time?
Merlin and Arthur talking about. I'm not gonna lie to him this time. He did help me. Talking about ancient experiments.
Merlin. Merlin and his obsession with the weirdness. The king thought it could save us. Merlin thought it could be controlled. Together, they were willing to tear the world apart to win.
You know more than you're letting on. You start making
I
sense.
was a prototype for Merlin's latest idea, immortality. Me and Seawall, the king's loyal pawns. Used and discarded when they found a better way. When they decided to go even deeper into their madness and turn our king into a monster.
Did Arthur know what was happening?
Even if he didn't, he should have. He was desperate to win. And desperation doesn't leave room for conscience. Every scream, every scar. Even if he didn't see it, he allowed it. That's as good as approving it.
Why didn't you fight back? Why didn't you stop him?
Back? Against who? Merlin? The king? You don't fight gods when you're just a pawn on their board. You endure. You wait. And when the time comes, you either break, or you're left to clean up their mess. That's what I do. What I've always done.
Shit, it's late. You didn't end like Seawall.
Seawall was Merlin's first attempt. I was the last. We could say I was lucky, but to say that would take a truly macabre sense of humor, don't you think?
I spoke with others, said he had to do it, or humanity would be lost.
Of course he'd say that. There's always a scapegoat and a convenient excuse for men like him. But it doesn't absolve him. Not when he was the one who unleashed this madness on all of us. He wanted victory, no matter the cost. And when you want something that badly, you stop looking too closely at what's being done in your name. And, after all, who said we were supposed to win this war? Who said we were supposed to survive?
You mean clean up their mess?
The monsters, the weirdness, the chaos. All of it leads back to them. We're left in the ruins of their grand plans, trying to uphold their ideals, fighting for what never was. It's time to bury all these fairy tales in a well-deserved grave. And that's what I do.
I assume you still want something from
You've
me.
seen what they did.
Mr. Caradoc.
And that's not the end of the story. It's not the extent of their sins. Find the pieces of his soul. Put him back together, if that's what it takes. And then we, or I alone, if you decide to defy me, can end the cycle. Either way, we will get to his resurrection. I've seen it too many times to believe the cycle will be broken before it happens. But know this. Once he's whole, Arthur's power, his mistakes, and his madness will all return. And when that moment comes, I'll be there. Whether to stand with you or step over you. The choice is yours. Just remember that when that happens, and you stand by his side, there won't be room for both of you.
You let you decide or decide you're wrong. If I'm going to fix that, you know where to start. I haven't decided if I want to align with Arthur fully yet. Obviously, this guy is making it seem to be a very bad idea.
Start.
Get some information
We've
out
already
of him.
started. But if you want the next piece, head to Kunacht. The menhir there is failing. The weirdness swallowing what's left of the village. You will need to find another artifact. The shield our king gave to Palamedes. He was one of the king's finest.
Palamedes.
A voice of reason amidst the madness. But it didn't save him or his legacy from what they had coming. Find the shield. And then, well, we will meet again. We'll see if your perspective changes.
And just like that, he was gone. It's a shame I don't get to actually wield that thing. I suppose I would be overpowered. A game like this. Shadow of the Horns. Okay. That is a good place to stop, so Oh, I leveled up too. Does this cost points? Oh shit. King's Soul. Okay, that's the Arthur time. You deflect all incoming projectiles. Automatically use it when you would receive lethal damage. Doing damage has a small chance to create a weird essence. You collected a projected portion. Okay. That thing is like twice the size of you. Listen. Listen. When I see a big sword, I need to swing it. I need to. Killing enemies stores a portion of King's Soul. Oh, it's a passive. Okay, I see. Finishers a store. Finishers are random though. Using King's Soul, your damage increases by 50% for each enemy killed. Oh, let's look up. Berserk mode, okay. But using King's Soul, you receive 50% less damage. This one seems good, but... Oh, it's a separate... Okay, it's a separate points. Okay, I see. I thought I used my, my regular points. King's Soul's fully charged. No. This looks good. I can't acquire. Oh, there we go. Excellent. Arthur, you've been a bad king. Why did you leave Excalibur, the Horns of the South?
It was supposed to be a reminder. The sword was never just steel. It was a symbol of what we stood for. Strength, justice, the will.
Have a good night, Hiko Hunter, and thanks for watching.
A weapon, yes.
Appreciate the conversation too.
Promise. I wanted them to remember.
I should be heading to bed myself, actually, after I talked to Arthur.
Even when I was gone. Even when there was no king left to lead them.
What do you remember about Merlin?
Merlin saw Avalon for what it was long before the rest of us. He told me that Tintagel wouldn't hold. Not forever. That the weirdness would gnaw at our walls, at our minds, at our very bones, until nothing human remained. But he still fought to map a way forward, to carve some sense into this land. And in the end, the land swallowed him whole anyway.
How did he die?
We were losing the battle at Tuathan's mouth. Our last push before the weirdness took the field. Merlin was with us, bleeding, exhausted, but still weaving his spells. Then it came. Not a beast, not a man, not something we ever had words for. A shadow, wearing 1,000 torn banners, moving like it had no shape of its own. Merlin raised his staff, spoke a name I didn't recognize. And then he was gone. Not killed, not struck down, just gone. Like the land itself had taken him back.
Ready. Do a big save. And exit. So good. And I believe that's basically at the end of Act 1. So next time I play, I will definitely finish Act 1, finally. And of course, that will be another time. Or Bart. Play something. Yes. They'll be continuing that game another time. And I think tomorrow night, the Doom Guide is wanting to collaborate again. So that's something to look forward to. But that is where I'll be calling it. This is very late, and I've been sitting here for far too long. Not good, not good. That's fine. So, 20 viewers, thank you for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Even if you're just lurking, it's always fine. Very lurk-friendly stream, trust me. I have no qualms with just mumbling to myself. Talking to myself. You know what's happening in the game. But I'm 99% sure I'll be streaming tomorrow night as well with the Doom Guide. With the Doom Guide, yes. Collaborating. I think we're playing Windwards. It sounds like, which is a multiplayer pirate game. So that should be fun. But once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for lurking. Thank you for tuning in. And as usual, Wanderers, farewell and take care.